What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another video for you guys, and we broke down yesterday why we think Tottenham might be after Timo Werner and might be looking at signing him. We were looking at some of the stats and seeing what we can learn from some of the data that we've got at our disposal. And today we are going to be looking at Radu Dragusin, because Spurs have agreed a fee with Genoa at the time of talking for 25 million euros plus 5 million euros in add-ons. So we're going to be looking at some of the data, and we're going to be trying to pass why we think Tottenham might be interested in Radu Dragusin and what he might bring to Spurs as well as a centre-back. To help us look through everything, it's going to be the ever-brilliant Mr. Brian Daigle. How are we doing, Brian?
We're doing good, buddy. You know, I must say I really enjoyed the Timo Werner video and looking at the data and the stats, and even more so looking forward to this one, because obviously I don't know, or we don't know too much about Dragusin. So let's educate ourselves.
Let's do it. So obviously, 21-year-old centre-back at Genoa. Spurs have obviously been chasing him the whole window. A lot of people have been very excited about this deal. A lot of people don't know about who this guy is, hadn't heard his name up until a few weeks ago. So let's try and look at the data. We'll look. Just to get ahead of the game here, the data is not going to look on the face of things as good as how it's looked maybe for other players we've looked at, but I'm going to explain to you why it looks this way and what we should be focusing on in terms of the data to get excited about. Let's take a look at, first of all, a bit of his defensive data. You can see, first of all, when you bring it on, you can see quite a lot of red. Does look a bit concerning when you, on the face of things, you look at that defensive data. But I think one thing's very important to caveat defensive data is that for defenders, it's very difficult to get a good data set, because good defenders this data basically is more about volume than quality. So if you make a lot of tackles, if you make a lot of blocks, you make a lot of interceptions, you're going to be performing a lot better on this data. Now, just because you make a lot of tackles and a lot of blocks doesn't make you a good defender. It just means you're tackling more and you're making more blocks. But what does make you a good defender is the green bar you can see: dribblers tackled and challenges lost. Now, the reason this is very important to focus on is because this is the percentage of when he's confronted with the dribbler, he's able to come out on top and actually tackle them. And Tottenham and defenders are going to have to do that a hell of a lot, because we obviously leave our defenders very vulnerable, and we leave them in a lot of one-on-one situations, and sometimes they are going to have to tackle dribblers. And so if you look at that percentage of dribblers tackled, 9 is in the 98th percentile, and that stat is actually very crucial to focus on because of the way we play. And challenges lost, he's in the 98th percentile, which means when he does get confronted with an attacker, and he is going in with a 50-50, or he is going in for a challenge, more basically he's in the 98th percentile of defenders who come out on top in those challenges. So when I look at this data set, those stats are actually very important to focus on, rather than the amount of tackles he makes, the amount of interceptions. Even the amount of dribblers tackled isn't that important, because Genoa play a very different way. They play in a low block back three system, so he's actually not going to be confronted with too many dribblers, because he's always going to have help with him. So that's why he's maybe not tackling as much in that aspect. But when he does have to tackle, he's good at it, and that's what we can see. And the next one I'm just going to look at is his aerial ability, which is also very important for Spurs, because, you know, we're going to have to be very strong from set pieces. We're going to have to make sure that when teams go long and go direct against our attack, because we're going to have a lot of possession, we're very strong aerially, winning those duels in the air. And as you can see, wins a lot of headers, and the more importantly, his aerial win percentage is in the 89th percentile at 70%. So that is very crucial for Tottenham. So bring back Brian. Yes, the data on the face of it, as I was saying, can look scary because there's a lot of red there. But actually, when you drill into it a bit, I actually can see the logic in some of the things he's very good at and what that can bring to us.
Well, again, remember, we're talking about a 21-year-old here who is still learning his trade in his first season in Serie A. So he's going to be raw. He's going to have to learn things. And like you said, with the first two green bars you showed, it just showed with us playing a high line, and obviously Van de Ven can complement that with his pace. We need a bit of brawn in there, like a Romero. And from that stat, it just literally shows that this guy is supreme at those things that he does. And then you look at the aerial ability. One of the things we have struggled with is set pieces and dealing with them and handling with them. And he comes in and ticks those boxes. Where we were looking at Werner yesterday and the things that he offers that others weren't, the things we are lacking in is that complement for Van de Ven, especially if Romero is out, because we know Romero and him are the real deal together. So he can be a like for like with Romero, and he can definitely add some aerial ability strength in defending set pieces, which we struggled in.
Yeah, just to make my point even stronger about defensive stats, why it's hard to judge. If I was to, for example, look at Virgil van Dijk and his defensive stats, he would have some of the lowest in the league for the amount of tackles and all that kind of stuff. He'll be near the bottom because why would that be? Because he doesn't have to tackle as much because he plays for a good team. So it's hard to judge the quality of defender just on the amount of tackles they make and all that kind of stuff. But how you can look at it is when they do have to make a tackle, their tackle success rate, dribblers tackle, that kind of aerial percentage one. Those are things you can make some good judgments on when it comes to a defender. And he performs quite strongly on those kind of metrics. So that is quite important to look at. Yeah, can you say something? No? Okay. Next up, we're going to look at his passing. Now, again, caveat, it looks quite bad on the face of it, but I'll explain why it looks quite bad. Now, he's obviously in the lowest percentile for a lot of the passes you can see. The only thing he performs well at is assists, expected assists, and key passes. Now, one thing that's quite interesting, I find, is that key pass metric, because playing a centre-back, he's a very brave defender. He's a defender who does like to get forward. His other metrics show that he's a player who likes to get into the final third and cause very good when it comes to when we have set pieces. He's good, but that key pass metric is obviously a key pass is a pass that either leads to a shot that leads to a chance, basically a pass that leads to a shot on goal. From the back pass, 0.37 key passes per game. That shows that he's actually quite incisive when he does get those passes forward, and his passes do lead to chances being created more often than most of the centre backs, which is quite impressive. I would argue. Now, obviously, we're looking for good passes, right? We're looking for players who are able to play out the back, who are brave on the ball, who are good quality passing. And you look at those metrics, and obviously you're going to be thinking, well, this guy isn't a good passer. This guy is near the bottom of the metrics for all these kind of for all these metrics. Basically, his passes completed is very low. Pass completion 82%, which isn't particularly high. All of them, basically. Progressive pass is very low. But I'm going to contextualize why these passing metrics are very low. And that's because if you look at Genoa, if you look at their passing, this is a Serie A table for passes. And Genoa, as you can see, they currently sit 12th in Serie A, but they're third bottom of Serie A for the amount of passes attempted. So they don't pass the ball a lot, basically, is my point. They're very low in Serie A for the amount of passes they make. And as well, when it comes to kind of ball carrying and things like that, he also performs very low. And he also doesn't perform well on the metrics. And that's because if you look at, again, the average possession that Genoa has, you can see here, it's second bottom of Serie A. They average 42. They average 42.6% possession per game. So they don't keep the ball, essentially. They're very bad in possession. They don't make a lot of passes. They're much more of a counter-attacking team, low block, soak up pressure, and hit teams on the counter-attack. So considering all that context, to have some of the highest key passes for a centre-back in the league is actually fairly impressive, I would argue. And yes, maybe his passing overall is still raw in general. So I think the passing metrics are made to look worse because of Genoa's, in general, how they play. But I actually think if you take into account that he's able to pull off quite a few key passes in a team that aren't able to keep the ball quite a lot for a centre back, that shows that his passing can be quite incisive, I would argue.
See, this is the thing. One of the things I mainly do is with football, I'm more of the eye test. I'm old school. I don't really normally, like when I hear we're linked with the player, look into the stats or get too deep into data analytics. It's not my strong point. But you can see now what Tottenham are trying to do, can't you? You can see we've gone down this road, and obviously there's key areas and key attributes that are vital to Ange Postecoglou himself and the way he wants his team to play. We've seen how we were looking at tackling and how it's vital. Well, this passing from the back and being comfortable on the ball is a very, very important part of Ange Postecoglou's game. And from what you're showing there and from what I'm seeing, like you said, he's very, very comfortable on the ball. And he's now going to be in a team that are very, very comfortable passing the ball. And it's a key part of it. So again, this just goes to show when Spurs are identifying a player right now, it's looking like they really are doing their due diligence and looking for the player that can meet all the criteria. And obviously, the two things we've just discussed are a huge part of Ange's, the tackling and obviously the physicality and the passing. And those two things he's excelling in. And like he said to me, a team that is not very good on the ball and hardly in possession, to be right up there in the top percentiles is very, very encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, I think when he comes to Spurs and he is starting regularly for a better team like us, whose game is very different, it's to keep possession, it's to make a lot of passes. Those metrics will be flipped. They're going to be a lot higher. He's going to have a lot more green bars and a lot of those metrics because of the way we play. And it's important to note as well, for our centre backs, it's important to be like composed and good on the ball and brave. But you don't have to be the best passer in the world. You just have to be quick. You have to be incisive. You have to make quick decisions. But you don't have to be a defender switching the play all the time. Pinpoint passes. You just have to be quick, incisive, and making sure you're getting the ball to the next man with pace and accuracy, and so that Tottenham can have a quick attack and the when we're building up from the back. And I think he's capable of doing that. And I think he obviously he's still 21. He is still raw. He is got a lot of learning to do. But I think even looking at the data and just looking deeper into some of these metrics, into what he is good at and what we can learn from it, I think it's actually really encouraging. And I know. Obviously, I'd love to look at a player's FB ref and data set and everything's green and everything's amazing. For a 21-year-old, when you're trying to find value in the market, you've got to basically sometimes read in between the lines. And I remember as well, Vicario, we were looking at some of his stats, his passing stats, and they weren't very good. And but if you read in between the lines, he doesn't make a lot of passes, but when he did make passes, he was good at it. And he was able to pull them off. And that's kind of what I'm seeing with Dragusin here with some of his metrics here.
I think what you can also add as well, Simeon, I don't think at Genoa he's got anyone in the comparison of an unformed Bissouma or Bentancur or Maddison directly in front of him to distribute the ball to, or Bissouma obviously dropping deeper, or whoever's in the six. He's going to be surrounded by a lot better quality. And there's going to be a lot more movement. There's going to be a lot more availability. Even when we're playing from the back, we see recently, even with Ben Davies and Emerson, the intricate passing that we're doing and getting it out, it looks like he's made for Tottenham, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's a brave defender. He's very physical, really good in the air, as we said. He's good at tackling dribblers when they're trying to run at him and take him on, which is crucial when you're playing a high line like we are. So I think the underlying metrics do kind of support that, and I think I think it's positive. I'm very positive about this deal. I'm really excited to get another centre back through the door and someone who can really help with our centre back depth. And I think he's only going to grow as well. And it's someone who we've clearly looked at for a long time, scouted him and decided this guy can really help us. So, I think I'm excited with it.
Same here. Listen, we wanted it early. It's coming early. Just waiting for those three magical words. Three magical words. And hopefully it'll be done. He'll be there for United and be there to help Spurs achieve success this season.
One thing I didn't actually show, but it's important to note, his kind of shooting metrics are actually quite high. And what that tells me, obviously he's not shooting from like 30 yards a lot, but what he is a very big threat from set pieces. He's very much a guy when he gets forward. He's already scored a few goals this season for Genoa. He scored against Juventus not the other week. He's always a big threat from set pieces, and that's something that as much as I love Van de Ven Romero, they haven't obviously had too much of an effect in the attacking phase in that aspect. So it'll be great to have that aspect as well. So yeah, look, I'm excited with him. I think he's going to bring something different to our defense. I think he's going to bring quality depth to our defense. And I think as well, he's going to grow into a much better defender as he grows older. So look, let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of Radu Dragusin? What do you think of all the stats we discussed today? Am I reading too much into it? Am I making good conclusions? What do you reckon about the prospective signing of Radu Dragusin? Yet again, thank you to Brian Daigle for joining us for today's video. Go check out Tottenham on Tour. Link will be in the title of this video, so go give him a sub. But that is all we've got time for today's video. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.